Gentlemen, boys and girls, and welcome back to VTech Talk Sports, where I talk about controversial things or things that are talked about but don't go too much in depth and too much opinionation to it, I guess. So today we're going to break down David Ortiz getting shot, KD's injury, fan safety for the NBA. Then we're going to talk about the rise in players committing crimes as far as sexual assault along the lines of that. So that will be towards the end. I will give a heads up prior to that. So if you don't feel comfortable with stuff being talked about like that, you can just exit off. Also, we will talk about how bad NFL, NHL, NBA, MLB umpires have been in the past couple years. We'll just that's going to be more of an opinionation to it, kind of talk about why I think that's a reasoning why behind it. But disclaimer, first of all, these are all opinions. There are some facts, but it's more of a rundown of my opinions, to counter argument to some things and what should and shouldn't be done. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to jump right into talking about David Ortiz. So Monday of last week, well, I guess it was Sunday night of last week, he was at a club and in the Dominican Republic in his hometown of Santa Mago, I believe is how you, Santo Domingo. If I mispronounce that, let me know down in the comments below. So a gunman gets off a bike, shoots him. I think it's been flipping back and forth. I believe the guy's name was Eddie Velez. It was a jump back and forth that people were saying, well, he was the guy that shot him. Now he was the getaway guy. Along the lines of that. Anyways, David Ortiz gets shot in the back, goes out through his stomach. He gets minor surgery done. Well, major surgery, I guess. Remove some intestines, liver, gallbladder, stuff like that. Then Boston comes in, was like, hey, we got to save our guy. So they sent a plane down there to get him. He comes back to Boston. They do more surgery on him. He's doing fine. So what the big argument here is, why do athletes that come from poverty go back home? Okay, I don't see it as a bad thing, him going home, because obviously his family's there, his father's there, there's plenty of people there that he knows. He does well in the community there. So what does or what didn't David Ortiz do to prevent that from happening in any other athlete? Because you're a celebrity now. People are going to want to get money from you. They want to do other things along the lines of that for you. They want to get stuff from you. And if you look at them the wrong way, or if you do something the wrong way, they may attack you because you're not. It's a big name. And it's a shame that we have to live in a society like that, but that's been going on for years. This isn't just nowadays. This is been going on for centuries. I mean, when you look at the Roman Empire, all along, even higher power, people want to assassinate people because they don't like them for a certain reason, that their guy didn't get elected, or this person said something that, you don't find to be right. So David Ortiz, I think, should have had better security. But, I mean, also, he was in a club full of people. And the funny part about that is the people try to get away on a bike, on a motorcycle. One guy went to the hospital with basically a broken skull, broken ribs, right and left leg contusions, all this other stuff. I mean, they beat the crap out of this guy. And it shows that what David Ortiz is to that community is great. I mean, he is a celebrity. He is their idol. And athletes are idols to people. It's a shame that we have to live in society nowadays where you have to really worry about all that stuff all the time. It's not like, well, this guy gives all this money to charity. He helps build new ballparks. He does all this other stuff. but yet we're going to go ahead and we're going to pay someone to basically shoot them or to try to injure them, try to kill them. And that's a shame, because now more video or more evidence has came out that these two gunmen were talking to someone in a car that was in a alley about a block away from the club, and you see the guy talking to him, and then after that the guy leaves on the motorcycle and goes shoot David Ortiz. So that's a shame that has to be like that. Why would someone, I have never heard anything bad about David Ortiz. He cares about everything. He's a good guy, and it's shame to see good things happen to people like that. Now, what does David Ortiz go back? Does he go back to being that go back to the DR? I think he might. You can't deter someone from going back to a place that they love, and he does so well for that community. I know I keep saying that, but it's true. I'm just trying to put across to you that this guy is a god, or not a god, but he is a celebrity that people look up to, people idol off of. I mean, how many people come from the DR that come up to play MLB? There's tons of players, and I love the support system around him. I mean, everyone is supporting everyone who's ever played with him, played against him, has said good things about him, and it's a shame, but you have to look at it as, okay, most of the times stuff like this that happens, we have to say goodbye. And we don't have to say goodbye to David Ortiz. And that's the greatest thing that yes, it's a shame that this happened to him, but we don't have to say, oh, he was taken too early, and this is a shame that this had to happen. And he gets to live his life. I mean, he's in his 40s, I believe, so he's not really, I mean, he's older, but he's not old. He has plenty of time to live. He has all this other stuff to do. He's just getting into retirement. He has all this time in the world to do things. And I give kudos to the Boston Red Sox for giving a big support system to him, flying him back to the United States to get better medical attention. It's just a great thing to see. It really makes you, when bad things happens to someone, you turn around and something good happens. It makes you believe that sometimes there are good people out there, and it gets overshadowed by the bad stuff. So I'm glad that an organization that he did so much for, and for a city he loves, I'm glad that he got that support system from former players and players nowadays. That's just the greatest thing in the world. But I think he will go back to the Dominican Republic. I think that he needs to be escorted by a heavier security system, as far as bodyguards, stuff like that. I mean, he's not a trained professional fighter. He's a Major League Baseball player, and he's just trying to have a good time with his friends, family members, go out and have some drinks. That's what you do. You're a celebrity. You can do that stuff. You can afford all that stuff. You're hanging around. But let me know down in the comments below what you think should happen or what should be done next time that he goes, if he does go back to the Dominican Republic. But we're going to go ahead and shift gears here to the injury against Kevin Durant. Okay, so moving on to Durant, right? He was out for most of the playoffs with a calf injury as it was. Golden State goes down 3-1. Game 5, he comes back. He leaves with the second, I believe in the first half, I think almost in the second quarter. Or is it the first? I'm not quite sure exactly which one it was. But he goes down with the same injury, and you find out that it's something to do with his Achilles heel, or that that tendon back that way. And it was on him making a 3-point shot. So was it Durant's fault, or was it the Warriors' fault? So when I was thinking about this, right? Durant doesn't play. He does some practice prior to Game 5. And then he comes in and plays. He was questionable all the way up to the time that he comes out to play. He plays. He gets hurt. He goes out. Why? So when you look at it, all right, did Durant want to play? I guarantee you he did. There was people saying that he was faking it. He was going to come in when things were down. That's not the case. I don't think Durant was ready to play. I guarantee he wanted to play, but he wasn't ready. So you look at the coach. Or you look at the front office. Right? So, when you look at the front office may say, we need him to play. And the coach was like, well, I don't, I'm just speculation. The coach may say, well, I don't want him to play. Well, if front office says, well, if you don't play him, we're going to fire you after the season or whatever the case may be. Do you, as a coach, just buy into it because you have a comfy job, all along the lines of that? So you're just going to say, whatever, you have a stellar team, you've made it to the postseason the past 5 years, you've won so many championships, 3 years in a row, whatever the case may be. So you're like, hey, let's, go ahead and be that team, I'll be that coach, I'll just listen, I'll just be a yes man. Here's the issue. Okay, if a guy gets fired for not playing a player because he's injured, one, there's something wrong with the front office, and two, I guarantee you're going to be picked up right away because, yes, you made it the championship 3 years in a row, or 5 in the past 5. Yeah, well, I'm just saying I'm not a huge basketball buff, so I'm gonna miss a couple here and there with statistics and stuff like that. But the issue that you run into, well, with the coach is, okay, you get fired, you may get picked up, you may have to restart all over, but guess what? People are going to respect you more because you looked at the big guys on top and said, listen, this isn't safe. We shouldn't have this guy playing. You're risking this guy's career. He's going to be out an entire year now because because you're trying to win a championship. I get it. You're trying to win a championship, but Kevin Durant is not young. He's coming down to the bit of coming down to almost retire. I mean, he's getting there up in age. I should say he's getting up there in age. So when you look at everything, that's an issue because now he's going to miss a year. That's another year he could have possibly been playing if he would have just sat out. They took the L anyways. He could have just sat out, and you say, well, we were gonna probably lose him anyways because free agency or whatever the case may be. Well, guess what? That's a risk you got to take sometimes. The Warriors were in desperation mode because they were losing a lot of people. Klay Thompson was hurt. Those other people got hurt. Looney, all them others. Golden State could have won the NBA title very easily, but they had too many injury bugs, and you have to take your losses when you get them. I get it. You want to try and win. You're trying. But when you put people's careers at risk, that's where I draw the line. You cannot risk someone's career for a game. I get it. It's a national champion. You want to win. You want to be on top of that, but you have plenty of it. It's not like it's your first one. Even if it was your first one and your franchise never won it, I'm not putting a guy out there that can easily get hurt again and again and again. You can't let that happen. It's an issue that now these players are expected to play through hurt. You're not going to lose your job because you're Kevin Durant. Even if you're LeBron James, LeBron James was hurt mostly. He's not going to lose his job. People are still going to admire him as one of the best players ever. You can't do that, especially someone who is coming towards the back half of his career. You can't risk someone's injury like that. It's an issue. I think MLB does the best with it. I mean, players get a little bit hurt. They sit them out and they say, all right, you take this rest. Because, there's a lot of games that are played in the NBA. The NBA and NHL hockey, their seasons go on forever, really. They only get a short time off. Baseball, you get a short time off. I think baseball does the best thing with resting their players because it's best man, it's next man up, this and that. It's just an issue that they need to look at and say, all right, we need to be able to prevent players from getting hurt and injured, stuff like that. So with that, you can let me know what you think. If whose really fault is Durant or is the Warriors' fault? Along the lines of that. So we're gonna shift on to player safety and fan safety for the NBA. Now, I do a radio show on ChicagolandSportsRadio.com. You can find that on Facebook Mondays from 3 to 5 with a group of guys. And we were talking, I wanted to discuss Kyle Lowry getting pushed by the minority owner from the Warriors, right? So that guy gets suspended. He gets fined. He gets suspended from a year. He can't attend any more basketball games for a year or whatever the case may be. When you look at every other sport, basketball is the only one that is closest to the playing field. Okay? You could say, well, baseball's pretty close, football's pretty close, but there's a barrier. You have a wall, and you have to physically climb out of that wall to get down on the field. Basketball, you could just take 1-2 steps and you're on the court. I think that should be an issue because now you're getting minority owners pushing players. One, that's a player safety problem. That's a fan safety problem. Even if someone goes flying in for a ball, you still hit a fan. That's a safety problem. And if you want to keep your fans, if you want to keep everyone safe, you're not ruining the integrity of the game, okay, by pushing seats back. All you're doing is losing seats. All right, they cram so many people into a basketball arena, it's crazy. All right. I have never been to a basketball game, but I've been to a hockey game, and I can just imagine. I know the difference between the courts and the playing surface. I can only imagine how many people they can cram into there. The NBA needs to take a look at that because there's no way, one, that a minority owner should be pushing a player. But yet again, I do and I don't fault the guy because they're so close. Things like that can happen. You get into the heat of the game. Yes, you're a fan. You need to respect that, but you're also a minority owner. You need to be more professional. But guess what? Sometimes people aren't professional and stuff like this happens. The NBA needs to do a better job of putting that barrier in. So something needs to be changed. I mean, you all may disagree with me. I mean, when I was on the radio show, I got a lot of disagreements on that saying, well, that's just basketball and that's how it should be. Well, no, it's not just basketball. It's more than that because I can just imagine someone going into a seat, people getting hurt. I mean, basketball's different. If a basketball hits someone in the face, it's kind of funny because it's a basketball. It's not a baseball. It's not a hockey puck. It's not a football. I mean, a football hurts more than a basketball was because of the pointy nose. It's just something that needs to be addressed. I think they need to take a long, hard look at it. I think the minority owner got the correct punishment. I think he should have been fined a little bit more, but a year away from basketball is probably a good thing. Maybe he can recoup and rethink about it. The Warriors could. I mean, I don't know if they can really get rid of him because he kind of owns part of the team, but that's something that needed to be looked at as well. But that's just one of them things that need to be adjusted. We're going to go ahead and shift on to refs in Major League Sports. I've always wanted to kind of talk about this one just because it's an interesting fact, or not a fact, but interesting subject to talk about because I wanted to bring it up because of hockey this year. Okay, so the NHL has blown calls through the entire postseason. I seriously don't think that St. Louis should have won the Stanley Cup. I actually think it should have been the Las Vegas Golden Knights, but they were knocked out in the seventh round the seventh game in the first round. So like I was saying, the NHL blown a call. Vegas Golden Knights, they were up by 3 goals, and they get a high sticking, or not a high sticking, like a cross check into the guy's neck. The guy goes down. There was no whistles blown, no nothing. The only thing why the whistle was blown wasn't for a penalty, no arms went up. It was just because the guy was hurt, and then they talked about it, and they said, oh, okay, well, we need to penalize this guy, and we're going to kick him out of the game for 5 minutes. So it's a 5-minute major. San Jose goes on a 5-minute power play, and in a 5-minute power play, if you score, you still stay on the power play. So this was like with like 5, 6, 7 minutes left into the game. And the Sharks go up by 1. They score 4 goals. Vegas ties it up, and then the Sharks win in overtime. The Vegas Golden Knights had it the entire time. That was their game to win. They were going to move on. Sharks in the second round get a funky call, but the big one was in the Western Conference Finals. A hand pass call that wasn't called and ended up being a goal for San Jose. Well, San Jose still lost and St. Louis moved on. But the biggest one that we're running into is like the Rams and Saints when they played in their respective division championship, where that blown missed call of the pass interference was missed. This was kind of like this in hockey. So Boston Bruins were losing by 1. Blues player came up behind the Bruins player and tripped him up, and it was blatant obvious. He had his knee out, the stick was down, and the Bruins player went flying up in the air. Obvious call. You could see it all the way. Do they call it? No. What happens? Everyone stops because they thought it was a penalty. I mean, even the Blues player put his hands up like, yeah, I kind of did that, but like, don't penalize me for it. And Bruins had the puck, and everyone else stopped, and the puck was in the back of the net. That's an issue. So, talking about all that stuff, I really think it's replay. When you look at MLB, you look at their umpires, balls and strikes. That's kind of, I've been on that side. That's kind of hard to call. It's not just simple. I mean, it's human error, but even plays at the plate or plays that happen at first, second, third, or whatever the case may be, it comes down to replay. I think these refs, these umpires believe that they don't have to try as hard because it's just going to be reviewed, and that's an issue. You can't now the NFL is saying, okay, now we're going to review pass interference calls to make sure that's pass interference or not. Well, one, when you slow things down, it's hard to see. Replay should never be a part of a penalty setting, except if it's helmet to helmet. Even at helmet to helmet, it's still kind of hard. I know college does it. It's still hard to kind of. But then you got to put the rules in. I mean, NFL can't even get their catch rules right. They can't get their fumbles or whatever the case may be. They can't get any of that stuff right. And that's going to be an issue from here on out, is trying to get all that stuff to work. Now you're putting in, these refs are terrible. I mean, NHL, when I first started watching NHL, was back down in 2013. They were probably they averaged 96, it was like 96%. Now I want to say they're down to 75% getting calls right. Offsides are absolutely terrible. They can't call offsides anymore. They're missing penalties all up and down the ice. I get it. Let the players play in the postseason. But guess what? When you blow a blatant call that should obviously be a part of something, you screwed up. You caused a team to lose. I'm not saying that Boston would have came out and won the rest of that game, because they later did score, but the score was 2-1, so it could have gone into overtime. I'm not saying that. I don't discredit the Blues for winning the Stanley Cup. I wasn't wanting I'm a Hawks fan, so I obviously didn't want the Blues to win. I should say Blackhawks, because some people listen and they don't know hockey, and when I say Hawks, they think of basketball. So I should say the Blackhawks in the first case. Anyways, that's just something that needs to be addressed. I think that with the refs, that it needs to be, I think there needs to be a heavier fine on things. I think that they need to start looking into people that can actually call. They need to look at people who are in lower divisions, college, minor league, leagues. They need to look at those and say, well, this guy's doing something right, and we got an NFL ref who is deteriorating, who doesn't want to, who isn't calling the plays right, or whatever the case may be. And they need to start cycling new refs in and out. I get it, it's a respect factor or whatever, blah, 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 but guess what? You're running a business and you're losing business because of terrible, 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 terrible calls. It's absolutely terrible. You're slowing the game down one. NFL, it's going to be so slow this year, right? They're going to call every little thing because NFL get the reason that the regular season is a lot longer than postseason is the reason because of the refs they go through the gameplay and the refs are counted on how many calls they miss. So they're going to call everything. So now the regular season, every pass interference call, and now you're going to review it if a coach doesn't like it, or if New York says, well, here's an issue. It's dumb. It needs to be changed. I think they need to lower back on the replay. I mean, yes, certain things that it should be. I think there should have a rule stating at least in postseason. Okay, if a coach wants to review something, that they are allowed to review that, or if it's a game-changing call, I think they should be able to review that. Regular season, I don't think. They need to tone reviewing everything back. They need to do it. It's terrible. The NFL has more worries about trying to figure out what a catch is. The NBA with their barely touching a ball, or touching a forearm, therefore now it's a foul. Stuff like that. That stuff kind of needs to be toned back a little bit and let players play, get more exciting, because me personally, it's hard for me to watch the NBA just because there's so many points scored. Just because every little thing's a foul, okay, he breathed on me, you go to the free throw line. I don't want to see that anymore. That's one thing that deteriorated me from watching NBA and more watching hockey, because hockey, at the beginning wasn't, it was hit pound, they were called on obvious things, and now that's starting to deteriorate. They're starting to bring in more review, Toronto stepping in every so often, or they don't even step in at the right point. So I think that stuff kind of needs to be, or we break it this way. The headquarters, Toronto for NHL, New York for the NFL, and I think New York for baseball too. I'm not sure what NBA is, but I think that instead of Coach's Challenge, I think that those people that are up there that are watching, not regular, I should say postseason, because regular season, that's a lot of games to watch. Postseason, they need to be the ones that step in. I think that they need to be the ones that say, okay, something's not right here, let's talk things out. Let's bring the refs in, we'll review it, we'll talk about it, and then therefore we'll move on with it. I mean, coaches' challenges, I don't see a lot of them more in hockey. I think hockey is more of that. It's just maybe we can get it, maybe not. But NFL, I mean, that's just something that needs to be stepping, because sometimes, there's something that does get missed, and the coaches can't challenge it because it's a penalty or something. They need to kind of tweak that stuff and work over that. But if you think I'm just on a whole different world, let me know. If you kind of agree with what I'm saying, go ahead and let me know. But now we're going to move on to a touchy subject, and if you are uncomfortable with someone talking about sexual assault, domestic violence, the R word, that kind of stuff, then you can tune out now. But I think this is a major thing in sports that need to be addressed, and I think that it needs to be really severe, and I think it's something to do with players' mental state and what's wrong with everything. So there was a famous a tight end from Kansas City. I can't think of his name. He just got put away for 15 years for rape on a 58-year-old homeless girl. And he's still on like 8 more charges of that stuff. I mean, you have off the Cubs, Addison Russell. You had Ray Rice. You have like Aaron Hernandez. R.I.P. him. But you have who's the other, Michael Vick. You have still some allegations. Ben Roethlisberger had his. I know Patrick Kane had some of his. Had one on him. But so, what gives players the right to think that they can physically abuse someone? They can do whatever they want to a certain someone and get away with it. Well, they kind of can, because there's going to be 2 counter arguments to this. It's going to be actually proven, and people that get accused of things and it never is proven. So I'll get into the proven portion of it. The one person that I like to talk about is Michael Vick. I mean, he obviously had the dog fighting, but he did his time and he came back. All right, that wasn't huge. That was huge at the time, but that wasn't like, okay, he was caught for it. He did his time. There was no let's keep going to trial. He knew what he did. All right, he did it. He did his time. He came back. And I respect people like that. I respect that he did his time, he served his time, and it's okay for him to come back. Addison Russell for the Cubs, domestic violence, and what I don't understand in that portion is the woman that filed the charges said, I didn't want him to be in so much get so much hate from people. Well, guess what? When you look at the society nowadays, when someone lays a finger on a girl, they can just turn around. It doesn't even have to be from yesterday. It could be from 10 years ago. You know, oh, this guy touched me 10 years ago. What? 10 years ago? What? I get it's more acceptable now to come out with that stuff, but that's 10 years down the road. I mean, there's so much time that goes on. You could be at a party and accidentally bump into someone. But then when you accuse someone and someone gets, gets accused for it, gets suspended, does his time, or whatever the case may be, and you turn around and say, I wish that never happened. I wish I wouldn't. Then that tells me something's not right there. Okay? There's something wrong with that. Yes, that it happened, but there's something wrong with you not, that you don't, you put someone in that position and then you say, well, I feel bad, I should have never done that. Then why'd you do it in the first place? Yes, there's issues that are brought up. It might have actually happened, and I understand that. I'm not condoning violence at all. I think it's absolutely terrible. I don't think athletes that are, let's say, anything with domestic abuse is absolutely horrible. Now, when you get into the sexual assault or the sexual harassment, that's where things get a little touchy. Okay? Because, like I said, you could be at a party. I mean, this is just part of the news. A guy was in jail for 23 years, and he is now out of jail because the girl said, "Ooh, I actually accidentally dreamed of him raping me." Wait, hold up, what? So you're telling me that 23 years later, you now just say that you dreamt of it? That's where I have an issue with the sexual assault and sexual harassment. Because nowadays it's okay for women to come out with that stuff. You, as a male, as I am a male, I can't look at a girl. I can't touch a girl in a certain. I can't even brush by a girl without being accused of something. So guys have to keep their hands to themselves, and it's not like how do I say it? Keeping their hands to themselves. In not a good way, because if you brush up on someone, if you accidentally look at someone and you are now reprimanded for it, you can easily, it's he said, she said, and they're going to go with the she said part. You could be sitting on a park bench and a girl touches your leg or brushes by you or whatever the case may be, and she could go to court and say, well, he raped me. What? I didn't even touch you. What do you mean? You were the one that walked past me, but guess what? Who are they going to believe? Her, because she's going to cry about it. And I'm not... I am not saying that there aren't people that do, but the more people that come out with these false accusations, the more I get mad. Okay? Players nowadays could do something in college and be 10 years into their career, and someone will be like, oh, now he's making a lot of money. Can I get some of that money? I think I'm going to try to get some of that money. Okay. Kudos. I'm going to file charges against him. That's wrong. That's wrong. I think that there should be a span. I mean, at the beginning, when people were first coming out with it, it's a different story. Because now it's more acceptable and people are okay with coming forward to that. But now we're pushing 6 years for this stuff. Why is it now that people are saying, well, 10 years ago, this guy did this to me, or 20 years ago, this guy did something to me. I was in high school and now you're in your 40s and this guy did something to me. That's an issue that we have to look at. You can't, there has to be a span between that, because now you're just making shit up. Okay, I'm sorry. You're just thinking that you went to a high school party, you went to a college party, you're having drinks, and they talk about that stuff. I'm in the military. We talk about this stuff all the time. We call it a tea. We call it, if, giving someone tea. If someone doesn't want your tea, you're not going to give them the tea. If someone agrees to your tea and you go make the tea and you come back and the person's passed out, you don't give them the tea. Okay? It's the tea talk. Anyways, what we need to look at is players, one, need to realize that they are now idols. They are looked upon as celebrities. And when they start making money, there's going to be... So if you're planning to be anything like a celebrity, person of high power, a professional athlete, right now, if you are under the age of 15, you need to start respecting how all that's done. And even, yes, these players that come from poor communities or whatever the case may be, you still need to respect the fact that if you have the talent to make it a professional, or if you have a talent to make it of a higher power of in society, that you need to realize that, there's going to be scrutiny. You're going to be watched everything you do. And it's a shame that nowadays that, Keanu Reeves doesn't... So Keanu Reeves takes pictures with females, right? He doesn't even lay a hand on her. He doesn't even touch them. That's sad that we come to a society nowadays where a person can't just put their arm around someone. When you take, take a picture like with your sister or your brother or your parents, whatever, you kind of put your arms around them. That's a shame that you can't do that nowadays, because the world nowadays is all about, oh, you can't do that because now I'm going to sue you or something along the case of that. Professional athletes need to put themselves at a higher power. I coached football in high school. I should say I coached football at at the high school level, and dang it, I had it on the tip of my tongue. Now I lost it. Here. Okay. Even going through high school, the principal, our AD, would always say, "You're a student athlete. You're a student first, athlete second," right? What I interpret that as, well, even at that, as an athlete, you are put higher than everyone else. Okay, because you represent the school, you represent your organization, you represent the name on your back. Okay, you were put at a higher position. So yes, you're gonna get through scrutiny, and you can't do stupid things. It's simple as that. You can't let that. Even if you go to a party, you need to have self-control. And I understand that everyone else is gonna have self-control. Sometimes people will come on to you, and you're okay with it, and things turn sour. But you're like, well, why are you coming on to me? This is stupid, blah, blah, blah. I get the hormone things, the emotions, stuff like that, but that still needs to be addressed. Players need to put themselves at accountability. Organizations need to put their players at accountability. If there is a hint of something coming on one, they need to talk to the player. They need to know everything. They need to be like a lawyer. Now, if someone is accused of it, I don't think they should be able to play. To a point. As long as the trial is over, whatever the case may be, if the accusation gets dropped, then they can play. But if you're accused of something, you can't play. All right. But you have to also look at it. Well, it was 10 years ago. If this was 10 years ago, okay, there's a lot of black and white. It's just not all. It's not black and white. It's a lot of gray. What I should say. It's a lot of gray, not a lot of black and white. But if someone goes to jail for it, well, guess what? You can say goodbye to your comfy job. You can go find another job somewhere else, not playing sports, because there's a lot of people that if something like that happens, they get a felony on their record or whatever the case may be, they're not at their job. They're not at their comfy job anymore. So why do professional players get the okay? I get it. It's entertainment. Celebrities get an okay with it. It's entertainment. But people look up to those people as idols. There's kids that look up to players as idols. Okay? That's not a good representation. If your child is a fan of a player that has been accused and has gone to jail and has served time for violence or domestic violence or whatever the case may be, why should that play? Because now that player, that's okay. That guy did it, so I can do it. You have to be able to distinguish the different. There's a lot of black and white, and I kind of ramble on about it, but it needs to be addressed. It really does, and it's a shame that that we're in a society nowadays where some players are now they can't do anything, and if something goes wrong, if they're at a club and they accidentally bump into someone, now they can be accused of something. There's a lot of black and white, and it's a lot of talk about. But in summary, if you go to jail for sexual assault, sexual harassment, domestic violence, you shouldn't play. I'm sorry, you shouldn't. If the league finds you, if the court finds you, you shouldn't be able to play. It's simple as that. It's not a good look for organizations. NFL gets a bad rap for it. It's a shame. And the crime just keeps going up and up and up, and it's not even they worry more about the drug enhancements, the steroids. They care more about that stuff than they do care if this dude is beating up a girl or beating up another dude or whatever the case may be. They care more about that than they do care about other human beings, and that's a shame. That people care about growth enhancements more than they care about other people, and that's something that needs to be addressed. I'm sorry, it needs to be addressed. It needs to be changed. But no, that is going to do it for this week's podcast. Sorry if you hear any noise in the background. Obviously, I am in an open area. I'm not in a studio, so it's kind of hard for me to completely be quiet. And like, you're probably going to hear the water roll over right now, and I'm sorry, but people come home, and I got to get this stuff done. It's just one of the things, and I apologize for it. But be sure to follow me on Twitter at IIVTechII. Be sure to like my Facebook page. It's IIVTechII Podcast. I do have my own YouTube channel if you're into that kind of stuff. Twitch channel if you're into video games, stuff like that. I do try and stream video games, stuff like that. But going on next week, like I said, I'm not sure. I'll put out a tweet what I'm going to be covering next week. If you want to put comments, questions, concerns, if you want me to talk about something next week, make sure to put that in the comments below so I can cycle those out and figure out what I want to put on for next week. There's a lot of things that go on in sports. Just like after I did last week's podcast, I get off and, oh my God, David Ortiz gets shot. Well, I just got done doing my podcast, and the podcast is over 40 minutes, so I don't want to, keep everyone here for an hour. But like I said, if you enjoy this, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, or please leave a like, comment, follow. Be sure to send it to other people who may be interested in it. But I am Kyle Savitic, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your day, rest of your evening, whenever you're watching this, and hopefully catch you in next week's podcast of VTech Talk Sports.